muscles, our little presentation on Perseus. And then we'll get to Theseus in part 2 because otherwise this will be super long. Okay. This is just sort of frosting on the Perseus cake a little bit. So here we go. I heart, first of all, seeing what the actual art of the Greeks looked like. We're used to thinking of statues, less common now. Actually, you're maybe a little bit more used to it in terms of going on our favorite website, Theoi. But I do love how later on the late Renaissance was like, oh, it's golden and beautiful. And here it's definitely just plopping right on Danae. Here we have adorable family portraits, but also like ludicrously literal versions of putting in a wooden box and sending out to sea. Cute. And how adorable is our little Perseus right there? Awesome. Okay. The three ladies, one of the bones that I have to pick with Disney is that they take the three gray women, or the gray, who are, of course, supposed to be ugly and scary and all that sort of stuff. And then they turn them into the Fates. Because if you remember, they've got the one eye and they're sharing the thing. And then they try to do the thing with the scissors and it doesn't work because it's Hercules. But those aren't the Fates. The Fates have eyes or something. Those are the gray ladies. Now, obviously, once again, later on when people are using the Greek myths still as inspiration, but to make prettier pictures, you'll notice that these lovely women all seem to have both their eyes. Okay, now, pictures of Medusa. Love this. Enough said, I guess. Different depictions of Perseus cutting off Medusa's head. Also fun. Another fun and exciting, I used to think that these were ears because why would you put flesh-toned wings on a helmet? But apparently he did, or pink tank. Actually, they're not flesh-toned. They are pink pig's ears. Either way, they look weird. Okay, but of course there's more to this story than something else. And some of those moments we've already alluded to. But we have a backstory of how do we get Lady with Snakes anyway. Well, Medusa did used to be, in some stories, a beautiful maiden that Poseidon either seduced or raped or some other none of the above. But because she had originally been a devotee of Athena, she got pissed. Okay, so here again we can see different versions here. Another time it is that Medusa had nothing to do with Poseidon, but just bragged that she was gorgeous. And again, as you could tell from the reading with Andromeda, the gods don't love it when you say that you're prettier than they are. So, now, as we can see in, again, a lot of these myths, especially ones where we have this trend of women being left on mountaintops to have something to do with terrible serpents, / when gods interact with humanity, the mortal basically gets the worst end of the deal, right? Now, the awesome thing about this, which I love this picture of, is that if we go along the line of the Poseidon angle, then she is pregnant, and that's how we get this golden giant guy that I don't know where else. I forget where else he shows up in the myth, but that's also where we get Pegasus! And why we have weird snakes and red coral. So remember the 4 functions of myth? They're sneaking a couple functions in here. Our next bit of business is this, which I love. You know that whenever I have a chance to fit comic, maybe you don't know this, but now you will. Whenever I have a chance to fit mythology and some other people being funny with mythology in, I will do so. Also, that's a little preview of what's coming up next. Feel free to pause this at this point and read it for yourself. Otherwise, it ruins the humor, obviously, for me to do the thing. Hey, guess what? I think we already went over this a little bit in one of the classes because Medusa ended up being the entity that somebody picked, I think. So in one class, you should just be able to like fast forward through this. According to Freud, it all boils down to human sexuality. Because of course it does. You'll learn this in psychology this year, or if you take Psych 101 next year. Freud was keenly aware of that element of our personhood. I don't know why my dog started barking, but it's the kind of I'm fake barking at something to get your attention. All right. Yes, and so the child eventually having to assert himself from the mother figure basically allows him to be a full adult male and have a significant relationship with women that are not his mother, right? And so in order to do that, he has to kill off the mother figure, which is Medusa. Not a thing that you'd want to compare your own moms to, maybe. Like, hey, mom, aka Medusa. No, not a cute game. I really should have found out who this illustrator was because I kind of love the thing. Hey, look, we have Andromeda. I don't know why she's not wearing any clothes because actually I figured out, and I don't remember if I've said this in front of you guys or not, but I used to wonder, like, why are all of these ancients, like, depicted without any clothes on? And then I realized it was because it was like an opportunity to show the perfection of the human body. I'm doing air quotes right now, but I'm, of course, realizing that you can't see them. And the way that you know that is by this is a huge digression. Well, it's a minor digression. The thing that proves that is when Manet painted a very famous picture of a young woman in the pose of a classical painting earlier. And I should remember the young woman's name, but she was a well-known sex worker of the time, but also like fated more. She's a high-class escort, let's say, in France. But it caused a huge uproar because it was a real person and there were elements of realism to the painting itself. It was a portrait rather than kind of this idealized vision, and so that kind of cracks open the reason, or cracks open the difference between these idealized, stylized nudes, and then like, so basically people were painting and depicting people naked because they could. The end. But not quite. Hey, now Medusa has another more positive connotation because there is an element where it's related to wisdom. And Alexander the Great happened to, on his breastplate, it is historically recorded, have a picture of Medusa in order to scare the bejesus out of people and show his fearlessness when he was attacking, which I love. So, whether or not, so anyway, so that's kind of a cool thing that was obviously known and depicted by the thing. Now, these are two really great poems. This guy, so feel free to pause and read this guy. I think the next one is a little more scandalous. Yeah, it's a little bit more scandalous. But you're welcome to take a peek at those little guys if you're interested in poetry. Otherwise, this has been Behind the Muscles, Episode 1, Perseus.